My wife and I have been married for 6 years. We have an almost 5-year-old daughter. I'm an only child myself, but my wife is the middle child, with an older sister and a younger brother, 29. When our child was a baby and toddler, my wife stayed home with her, and we all just lived on my income as an architect. I have an office downtown, but the company I work for generally lets me work at home, and I go to the office once a week, twice at the most. When our daughter entered kindergarten early, my wife got a job as a substitute teacher. Her degree is in history, and has a deal with the district where she is pretty much guaranteed to have an assignment only once a week, every Thursday. When she is home, she takes care of our daughter, and also works on paintings, which she sells on Etsy. She used the money she earns teaching to buy her art supplies. When my wife is with our daughter, she usually takes her to the park, on walks, to the library, on play dates. Occasionally, when I can spare the time during the day, I accompany them for a while. My wife's sister, who is unmarried and lives alone in an apartment about 15 minutes away by car, offered to come over and watch our daughter on Thursdays. While it would seem unnecessary, since I am at home all the time practically, my work is actually very involved and requires all of my concentration. And when I'm working at home, it's behind a closed home office door. Typically what will happen is that my wife has to leave for her own assignment much earlier than when our daughter leaves for school. So my wife's sister comes over early in the morning, even though I'm around and could drop our daughter off at school if needed. My wife's sister and I generally get daughter dressed, make breakfast, and my wife's sister then takes daughter to school. My daughter gets out of kindergarten around lunchtime, so my wife's sister always just comes back to our house to make lunch for everyone. She will then pick daughter up from school and we all eat together. She will then play with daughter and hang out with her until 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, at which time my wife comes home. This happens one time per week. Occasionally, during the 2 or 3 hour window between lunch and my wife coming home, my sister-in-law will take daughter to the mall or out for ice cream. 3 nights ago, my wife and I were telling our daughter to finish her vegetables at dinner, and she was being very pouty about it. My wife insisted that she finish her asparagus, or else she didn't deserve dessert. At that point, our daughter said, "I hate vegetables. Why do I have to eat them? I love Auntie better. She isn't mean like you." I judged her statement to be the childish and somewhat manipulative outburst for what it was. But my wife just acted so strangely about it. She just got up from the table, asked me to make sure our daughter finished her food, and went to our bedroom and shut the door. I didn't think too much about it at the moment, but 15 minutes later, I went to the bedroom to check on my wife, and I could tell she had been crying. I've asked her about it, and she says she's okay. I told her that her kid is just being a bratty kid, and that she's trying to do the kid thing and manipulate us, maybe even unknowingly so. But I can tell my wife actually is terrified that our daughter loves Aunt more than her. My wife then said she doesn't want to be a substitute teacher anymore, and doesn't want her sister coming over. Prior to this incident, my wife always said how much she enjoyed Teacher Thursday, because she loved making a difference in the classroom, loved speaking to a class, and all that. When I mentioned in an offhand way that her sister would probably be disappointed, but that I also went along with her decision to quit teaching if that's what she really wants, my wife said something like, "Who cares what she thinks? Why do you care?" Then she said her sister was stealing her family, and said something that makes me upset even now. "She's trying to steal you too. Are you blind? Do you mind if she steals you? Have you ducked her? You ducked her, didn't you? Is she better?" I tried really hard not to get furious at such a suggestion, but I was really hurt. I was so insulted that I haven't dignified that accusation with a response to her. FYI, I didn't duck my sister-in-law. And just think that she's upset because our daughter said she loves her aunt more than her mom. My wife's been really sad the last couple of days. I suggest that she go see a therapist. My insurance covers it. But she insists everything is okay. I can tell she's sad. What can I do here? What do I tell her? Is there any explanation for her behavior? Just have no idea where any of this is coming from. She's 4, and her aunt gives her ice cream and mom makes her eat vegetables. So at that moment, she thinks her mom is just being mean. She doesn't know that being a parent isn't about being fun all the time. Kids at that age don't realize how hurtful their words can be. I would be very worried at your wife's extreme response to this, quitting her job, possibly cutting her sister out, and accusing you of cheating, aggressively. Has she always had jealousy issues with her sister? Maybe she will calm down and start being more rational, but if not, counseling is in order. She shouldn't give up something she loves and deprive her daughter of her aunt over one bratty statement in the heat of the moment. Ha. Background. I'm from Australia and am graduating high school this year. My father and my Aunt Katie are twins and do not get along at all. I asked my grandmother about it once. She said they were never close because they are completely opposite people, and my father struggled a lot with jealousy of Katie because Katie was very successful academically and musically at school, while my father hated school and always felt like he lived in Katie's shadow. My father became resentful of her. My father went to jail for 18 months for D offenses. Katie was furious because everyone knows I'm your sister. Everyone in this town knows, and it makes me look bad. She moved interstate to escape the reputation damage. My mother was his high school sweetheart and was angry Katie was angry at him. She thought Katie shouldn't have cared about her reputation. A couple of years later, when she was pregnant with me, there was a huge fight at Christmas where my mother got drunk at Christmas and insulted Katie for a bunch of reasons in front of her aunt and cousins, and my father did nothing, and Katie was angry. She said even if they are not close, no in-laws should come to a family event and insult someone in the family. Katie learned German and French at school, university, and then moved to Germany to do her master's degree in her mid-20s, like 15 years ago. She met her husband Leon, who is Brazilian and lives in Germany too, and they have 2 kids, Maria and Diego, who are twins like her and my dad. Maria and Diego are 7. My grandmother in the conversation we had says the jealousy has continued into adulthood because Katie and Leon have very good jobs and have more money and traveled a lot before having their kids. They seem to wish they did that rather than having kids very young. And they both never finish school and work low-skilled jobs. And they say things that sounds like they are very jealous of Katie and Leon's professional jobs. They have barely spoken since that argument, but Katie always sent gifts and letters and saw me for her parents. I started enjoying languages at school and would Skype a lot with Katie starting at a young age. And when my grandparents went to visit her in Germany, they'd take me and we became close. I felt like Katie and Leon were the parents I was meant to have. I know it sounds bad, but it is true. I've been learning a lot of German, and I'm getting very good and graduate high school this year. I want to study the language a little more and then do my degree there. It is free in Germany and very expensive here. Katie lives in a major city with a Goethe University and has offered to bring me over after I graduate to study the language intensively for a year or 2, because you'll be fluent after that and can do the degree, and said I can live with her and she'd be thrilled to have me. My parents are furious, and even called Katie for the first time in years, and screamed she has no right to offer that, and take time away from them, and trying to make our daughter a ducking know-it-all bee who sits in Europe, and thinks she's better than everyone else, and too good for here and her family, and where she came from. I heard the argument on speaker, and Katie said that I'm 18 and an adult, who can do whatever she wants after graduating, and she is allowed to offer another adult whatever she wants, and that it is my decision, not theirs. My parents are really upset and devastated that I grew up to be just like your ducking Auntie Katie, and I don't know how to handle it. I can't help the things I like. I really enjoy reading, and I love learning languages. I find history and politics interesting, and I'm glad I have a family member who is like that too. I don't want to be rude, but I really don't want to be like my parents. I want to have a good career. I don't want to be someone who is ignorant of the world or writes or speaks poorly. I want to be like Katie. I admire her a lot. She's smart, she's successful, she's a very cool person. I like talking to her. I have to be honest and say I don't have the same admiration for my parents. I respect them for raising me, but I don't look at them and want to be like them one day, like I do with Katie. I always feel like I never fit in with my parents. Most of their friends are people from jail or low-educated people too, and their kids don't really have much ambition or interest in much other than stuff like Kendall and Kylie Jenner, and they think I'm a nerd because I like reading and languages and actually like going to school. I've always wished I could run away and live a different life. I often feel like I was born in the wrong place, small-town Australia, to the wrong circle. My mother read my diary, which I'm angry about, and saw where I wrote that, and the stuff I wrote about wishing I had Maria and Diego's lives because even though they are years younger than me, they are growing up with the life I wish I was born into. Grew up speaking 4 languages fluently, English, German, French, Portuguese. Live in a European city. Have intelligent parents who really pushed education. Parents who love to read. There is nothing bogan about them. I wish that was my upbringing. I feel so envious every time I see Maria and Diego effortlessly switch between 4 languages. I even wish I had Maria's name. I have a real bogan name. One of those trendy names that people look down on. Think a female equivalent to something like Jackson or Harrison. While they have classic, timeless names. They'd be a little unusual in Australia, but because they are Brazilian names, nothing about them screams low class. They just sound Brazilian, Spanish. Maybe I shouldn't think that way, but it was in my diary, which is personal, and my mother shouldn't have read my diary. They have been furious with me for days over it, since I told them what I want to do, and since they read the diary, and yeah, I still want to go study over there. I really want to get my German and French fluent. I want to experience studying and living there, and I don't want my parents to hate me because I want something different for my life than they did. They even tell me, what do you need a degree for? So you can spend thousands of dollars to end up some ducking snob like Katie did? They even tell me learning languages is a waste of time and everything. What do I do? I want to go, but now I feel like if I go, they will hate me. Your parents could not be more of an example of crabs in a bucket if they tried. They will not be satisfied until they have dragged you down to their level. And honestly, I'd bet they won't even be happy then. You could become Kylie Jenner 2.0, and you still will always be the one who thought she was going to Europe and be a snob. So, you know what? If you're gonna do the time, you might as well do the crime. Go to Europe and live the dream. I think it would be a tragedy if you crushed your own dreams to satisfy your miserable parents. I dated a girl from the age of 13 to until I was about 23. She was the most perfect person in the world, and I always dreamt of marrying her and raising a family with her. She died due to a drunk driver, and it took me quite a few years to get over her. In truth, I don't think I ever got over her, and a part of me will always love her. I still have a lot of things that remind me of her. Movie tickets from our first date, a recording of her making fart noises, a jumper she knitted, a teddy bear I've had since I was a kid, and a variety of physical and digital memories. Everything is kept in a little suitcase, with the digital things backed up on a USB and CD. And sometimes on difficult days, I'll look through it all. I also have a tattoo of her pet name on my arm. It was a silly thing I did to surprise her for her birthday. I'm 29 now, and I've been dating a girl for just over 3 years. She was the first relationship after my ex, and was the first person I was ready to open myself up to. We've had difficulties because of my ex. I don't talk about her or anything, but she knew about her because of the tattoo. When I told her I loved her for the first time, I showed her the suitcase and told her I was ready to move on and be with her, but I could never get rid of those memories. I told her I loved her and that she'll always come first, but a part of me will still love my ex. I know this made her insecure, as she'd often ask if I loved her more than my ex when we were in bed, and I'd always tell her I did. The relationship hasn't been great because of lockdown, and we haven't been able to see each other as much. I was having a pretty bad night last week. Nightmares, and I couldn't sleep, and I ended up opening the suitcase and just going through the stuff to sort of calm me down. I must have left it out, as when my girlfriend came round today, she freaked out when she saw it, just sitting on the floor. We got into an argument about it, and she just grabbed the suitcase and ran out of my flat. There's a canal that runs behind my block of flats, and she just chucked it in there. I didn't really know what I was thinking, and just jumped in the canal to try and salvage it. Sadly, most of the physical things inside were destroyed or ruined. I ended up just telling her to go home. She's rung me quite a lot, and I've got a lot of voicemails and texts. Am I right in ending the relationship? I'm angry at her, and I don't think I can continue the relationship anymore. But at the same point, is losing mostly everything a release? It's nearly 1 a.m., and I've spent most of the day just crying and looking at everything, and I don't know how to feel. It's a release when you do it on your terms. It's not a release when somebody forcibly takes those things and destroys them. You were right to break up with her and cut contact. There's no positive to this behavior. I can understand her being tired of feeling like she's second to a ghost, especially after 3 years of dating. Even so, she had no right to do what she did.